Did you know many celebrities owned homes that they did not want anyone to know about? Every celebrity had a different reason, but after their death, the homes became public and also revealed some weird facts about them. Here are the 21 strange celebrity homes that Hollywood tried to hide. Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin lived in a Beverly Hills house that managed to be both modest and full of whimsy, much like the genius behind classics such as City Lights and Modern Times. Built in the 1920s, this cozy property wasn't sprawling, but it did include a hidden tunnel that reportedly led to a discreet wine cellar. Word has it, Chaplin used this passage to dodge nosy reporters or host small, private parties away from prying eyes. Another curious feature was a miniature stage on the grounds, where he could rehearse comedic bits or test out new ideas before filming. Even though Chaplin was one of the most famous entertainers in the world, he chose to keep the original 1920s decor inside, suggesting he never lost touch with his humble beginnings. This unassuming house also provided a personal haven when political tensions escalated during the McCarthy era, a time that ultimately caused him to leave the United States altogether. Chaplin's love of fun showed up in the garden too, where he installed playful sculptures and fountains, reflecting the light-hearted charm he brought to his movies. Now privately owned, the home isn't open to public tours, but it still holds a special place in Hollywood lore. It's a quiet monument to Chaplin's creative spirit, and a reminder that even world-renowned stars need a place to recharge and dream. Gloria Swanson. Gloria Swanson's Beverly Hills mansion, often called Casa del Sol, was every bit as dramatic as the star herself. Built in the 1920s with an eye-catching Spanish Moorish style, it featured arched doorways, beautifully detailed tiles, and even a private chapel. Swanson, who skyrocketed to fame as one of the earliest true Hollywood celebrities, filled the house with exotic collectibles, including Egyptian artifacts and unique antiques from around the world. Behind the glamorous exterior, however, were a few secrets. The house had a hidden passageway that led to a small, out-of-sight room thought to be used for private meetings or simply a quiet escape. Known for throwing parties that stood out even in a town built on spectacle, Swanson entertained countless notable figures. Yet the glow of stardom began to fade for her in the 1930s, and maintaining such a grand estate became more difficult. Financial challenges forced her to sell, and over time, the property passed through various owners. Eventually, Casa del Sol was torn down, erasing the physical remains of Swanson's lavish hideaway. Even so, film fans still speak of it as a symbol of her larger-than-life image. The mansion's disappearance serves as a striking reminder that Hollywood's golden moments can vanish almost as quickly as they appear. Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn's Mulholland Farm was the perfect playground for the dashing swashbuckler of films like Captain Blood and The Adventures of Robin Hood. Perched in the Hollywood Hills and built in the 1940s, the estate boasted a main house, a guest house, and a glimmering pool surrounded by lush landscaping. Flynn, famous for his on-screen sword fights and off-screen escapades, added all sorts of unconventional touches, including a secret passage leading to a hidden bedroom and a two-way mirror that allowed him to observe visitors unnoticed. He also included a pistol range for shooting practice and a private bar to host lively get-togethers. But this extravagant home reflected more than just Flynn's adventurous spirit. It also revealed a darker side. As his career began to wane in the 1950s and health and money troubles set in, Mulholland Farm fell into neglect, mirroring the actor's own downward spiral. Eventually, the property was sold and, later on, demolished, erasing the physical testament to Flynn's untamed lifestyle. However, the legend of Mulholland Farm endures. Movie buffs still talk about its mysterious tunnels and raucous parties, seeing it as a direct reflection of Flynn's bigger-than-life personality. In the end, it stands as one more reminder of Hollywood's ability to both create and consume its own icons. Mae West. Mae West chose a different path than most of her Hollywood peers by opting for a classy but relatively modest apartment in the historic Ravenswood building. Even so, it was hardly plain inside. West famously decorated her space almost entirely in white, from plush carpets to shiny mirrored walls. One of the most striking features was her seashell-shaped bed, a piece that instantly called to mind the brazen humor and flair she brought to her acting roles. She also kept souvenirs from her film career, including flamboyant costumes, props, and photographs that traced her rise to stardom. Despite her fame and success, West never felt the need to move to a sprawling mansion. Instead, she stayed put in the Ravenswood for decades, even as the industry changed and new generations of stars came and went. Rumors of ghosts and strange happenings have circulated over the years, with some residents claiming to sense her presence in the halls. Whether or not any of that is true, her longtime apartment in the Ravenswood remains a powerful symbol of West's fiercely independent nature. She did things on her own terms, refusing to be swept away by the latest trends. To this day, her name conjures an image of sparkling wit, quick comebacks, and a woman who refused to blend into the background. John Barrymore. John Barrymore's Bella Vista estate showcased the theatrical charm and complex personality of a man often referred to as the Great Profile. Constructed in the 1920s in Beverly Hills, it featured a sprawling layout, complete with a grand library stuffed with rare books and manuscripts, some of them hidden in secret compartments built right into the walls. Barrymore, with his love of classical theater, also set up a private stage where he could rehearse Shakespearean roles or entertain a few lucky friends. The Gothic-style furnishings, dark wood panels, and dramatic lighting underscored his flair for the theatrical, hinting that this was no ordinary movie star's residence. Animals roamed the halls too. Barrymore famously kept a monkey and a parrot, letting them wander freely like curious guests. Yet, despite all this grandeur, Bella Vista became a symbol of decline as Barrymore's health worsened and financial pressures weighed on him in the 1930s. He eventually had to give up the home, which delivered a devastating blow to a man who once stood at the pinnacle of Hollywood. After changing hands, Bella Vista was eventually demolished, erasing a unique monument to Barrymore's bright yet troubled legacy. Even so, stories of hidden bookcases and impromptu Shakespeare recitals continue to fascinate fans of old Hollywood, reminding them of the actor's undeniable brilliance and haunting final years. Hedy Lamarr. Hedy Lamarr's Hollywood house was a mix of gloss and genius, just like the star herself. Built in the 1940s high in the hills, it featured a modern, minimalist design with big windows that let in lots of natural light. To many, it looked like any stylish home of a screen siren. What set it apart, however, was the fact that Lamarr was more than just a beautiful face. She was an inventor. Hidden from Hollywood's cameras, she kept a private workshop in the house where she tinkered with ideas, including the groundbreaking frequency-hopping concept that paved the way for technologies like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. In a town focused on red carpets and glitzy premieres, Lamarr quietly chased her own intellectual passions. She rarely brought visitors into her workshop, and few people knew about her high-level problem-solving skills. That secretive blend of glamour and brainpower turned her into something of a myth within the film community. Though the home itself no longer stands, its memory still resonates with fans who marvel at how Lamarr balanced stardom and science in a time when few believed a leading lady could also be a serious inventor. Her story underlines the depth hidden beneath Hollywood's shiny exterior, proving that creativity isn't confined to any one field, even in an industry built on appearances. Howard Hughes. Howard Hughes's Beverly Hills estate was like a maze that mirrored the brilliant but troubled mind of the man who owned it. Purchased in the 1920s, it sat behind tall walls and dense foliage, offering complete seclusion to a figure who became more and more reclusive as the years passed. Inside, The decor combined sleek luxury with cutting-edge technology, as Hughes was known for pushing the boundaries, both in aviation and in his personal life. He even built his own airstrip on the grounds, so he could come and go without dealing with the outside world. As his fears and eccentricities grew, Hughes added hidden rooms and passageways to the layout, ensuring privacy no matter what. He was rumored to be obsessive about every small detail, from furniture placement to the exact temperature of each room. When his mental health took a downward turn in the 1940s and 50s, the estate felt less like a glamorous retreat and more like a self-imposed prison. After his death in the 1970s, the house was eventually sold and then demolished, ending its shadowy hold on the neighborhood. Even so, the tales surrounding Hughes's life of brilliance, paranoia, and secrecy linger, reminding us that genius often comes with a steep price, and that isolation can be both a comfort and a curse. Dolores Del Rio. Dolores Del Rio's Los Angeles home demonstrated her deep pride in Mexican culture and her willingness to embrace new ideas. Built in the 1920s by forward-thinking architect Richard Neutra, the sleek structure made a bold contrast against the ornate mansions popular among Hollywood's elite. Large windows and open floor plans gave the place a clean, minimalist feel that resonated with Del Rio's desire to present a modern take on luxury. Inside, the actress displayed art and items from her homeland, crafting a personal oasis that let her celebrate her roots. This setup appealed to other creatives too. Painters, writers, and fellow stars like Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo visited often, finding it a refreshing space compared to the usual Hollywood style. But as Del Rio's career in the United States slowed down in the 1940s, she opted to return to Mexico, where she continued acting and remained an influential figure in her home country's cinema. Over time, the house changed hands, and various modifications left it looking less like Neutra's original design. Still, architecture buffs recognize its groundbreaking role in showcasing modernism in Southern California. To many, Dolores Del Rio's one-time residence stands as a powerful testament to how an artist can meld cultural heritage with cutting-edge design, leaving a permanent mark on more than just the silver screen. James Dean. James Dean's final home, a small bungalow in Sherman Oaks, painted a very different picture from the high-speed life he lived on screen. In the mid-1950s, he settled into this unremarkable rental, seemingly preferring a quiet space far from the glitz of Hollywood parties. Yet the home still revealed glimpses of Dean's restless energy and strong passions. He famously kept his Porsche 550 Spider in the garage, a sports car that would later become tragically famous in his fatal accident. Inside, Dean showed a more reflective side. He'd spend time sketching, reading scripts, or even experimenting with bongos, hinting at an artistic curiosity that extended beyond acting. Close friends recalled him retreating here to escape the pressure of studio demands, wanting a place where he could just be himself without constantly performing for others. After his shocking death in 1955, the bungalow remained mostly unchanged, standing like a time capsule of that short, brilliant phase in his life. Though modern renovations have come along, fans still pass by out of curiosity, trying to picture Dean off stage, simply a young man grappling with ambition and uncertainty. In many ways, the bungalow's modesty underscores the stark difference between the mythic James Dean and the real person who once lived within those walls, seeking some peace in a world he left all too soon. Jane Mansfield. Jane Mansfield's home, famously nicknamed the Pink Palace, was unlike any other. Built in the late 1950s in Los Angeles, it was impossible to miss with its bright bubblegum paint and flamboyant design. People say it reflected Jane's larger-than-life personality, and it certainly showed in every corner. There was a heart-shaped swimming pool with a mosaic that read, "I love you, Janie," and the bold use of pink didn't stop at the carpets. It even covered the walls and ceilings in some rooms. Her husband, Mickey Hargitay, who was once Mr. Universe, added his own touch by installing a fountain that Jane would sometimes fill with pink champagne for her famous get-togethers. While it was definitely eye-catching, the house also hinted at Jane's deeper need to stand out in a Hollywood scene that often compared her to Marilyn Monroe. She never settled for blending in, and her pink palace made a loud and clear statement about that. Sadly, the home met its end in the early 2000s, when it was torn down. Even so, many still remember its wild, over-the-top style. It remains a vivid reminder of a woman who embraced every opportunity to be different, right up until the end of her life. Buster Keaton. Buster Keaton's old Beverly Hills estate felt like a living tribute to silent films. Built in the 1920s, the mansion had 20 rooms and was stuffed with surprises, from a Roman-style pool to a trout stream and even an aviary. Keaton, famous for his inventive comedic style, decided to add his own touches, such as a hidden bar that could turn into a private screening room. At the time, the house showed just how successful he was during the golden years of silent movies. However, this grand place also foreshadowed tougher times ahead for Keaton. Money troubles and a rough divorce led him to lose this cherished property, reflecting the broader struggles he faced when talkies took over and his career began to slide. Alcohol problems only deepened his difficulties, and the estate became a reminder of how swiftly Hollywood's favor could evaporate. After all, even a brilliant performer like Keaton couldn't hold on to everything when fortunes changed. Today, his old home is long gone, but its story still speaks to fans and film historians. It's a bittersweet chapter in Keaton's life, reminding us of both his creative heights and the personal and professional challenges he fought against behind the scenes. Marion Davies. Marion Davies's Ocean House, perched in Santa Monica, was more than just a mansion. It almost felt like a royal palace by the coast. Finished in the 1920s with the financial help of William Randolph Hearst, her powerful partner, the property had over 100 rooms, 55 bathrooms, and 37 fireplaces. The centerpiece was a 110-foot pool, flanked by marble statues and lush greenery. Davies, who went from silent film star to glamorous socialite, threw parties that people still talk about, inviting legends like Winston Churchill and Charlie Chaplin. But behind the sparkly events, there was a quieter truth. Marion's home wasn't only about her success. It was also a sign of how much she relied on Hearst. He was a strong-willed figure who sometimes overshadowed her personal goals. Once Hearst's financial troubles hit in the 1930s, the grand estate was broken up, and the main house met the wrecking ball in the 1950s. Though most of it was lost, the guest house and pool live on today as part of the Annenberg Community Beach House. In a sense, these survivors stand for the dreams Davies chased and the costs she paid to stay in Hollywood's top circles. Even though the main mansion is gone, the echo of her ambition can still be felt right by the sea. Rudolph Valentino. Rudolph Valentino's Falcon Lair was far more than just a place to sleep. It felt like a grand fortress with an air of mystery. Built in the 1920s in Beverly Crest, it reflected his Italian roots, complete with sprawling gardens, arched doorways, and a sweeping staircase that brought to mind medieval Europe. Named after his movie, The Hooded Falcon, the estate became tied to Valentino's private struggles. He poured both money and passion into Falcon Lair, but barely had a chance to enjoy it. Just a few months after moving in, Valentino died unexpectedly at 31, leaving fans heartbroken. Mourning admirers flocked to the estate for years, leaving flowers at the gates. Whispers circulated that Valentino himself thought the home was cursed, a rumor that only seemed to grow after his untimely passing. Over time, Falcon Lair switched owners several times, and each new occupant reported odd happenings, like eerie sounds and strange figures. In the early 2000s, the estate was finally demolished, ending its physical presence. Still, its story carries on as a ghostly tribute to Hollywood's first major heartthrob, a reminder that fame can be dazzling one moment and cruelly fleeting the next, haunting those who chase it with both dreams and fears. Mary Pickford. Mary Pickford's mansion, known as Pickfair, felt like its own kingdom in Beverly Hills. Built in the 1920s, it showcased the power she held as one of Hollywood's earliest superstars. She shared this 42-room estate with Douglas Fairbanks, and they turned it into a gathering spot for some of the biggest names of the time, including Albert Einstein, Charlie Chaplin, and Amelia Earhart. While it was a center of glitz and good times, Pickfair also housed a darker narrative about Mary's personal life. After she and Fairbanks divorced in the 1930s, Mary withdrew from the world, rarely leaving her luxurious sanctuary. Stories say she spent her later years drifting through its lavish rooms, haunted by memories of her past fame and lost relationship. Sadly, in the 1990s, Pia Zadora, who owned the mansion, had it demolished, citing issues like termite damage and even potential hauntings. That demolition sparked anger among film history enthusiasts, who saw it as the destruction of a treasured piece of Hollywood heritage. Though the physical building no longer remains, the name Pickfair still evokes thoughts of movie stars in their prime. In many ways, it stands for both the shining moments and the hidden heartbreaks that often go unseen behind Hollywood's golden facade. Douglas Fairbanks. Douglas Fairbanks, known for his daring roles like the Thief of Baghdad and Robin Hood, had a life off-screen that was just as grand. Although he once shared Pickfair with Mary Pickford, he also owned another estate in Santa Monica called Fairbanks Ranch. This lush retreat included landscaped gardens, a private lake, and a charming boathouse. An avid sportsman, Fairbanks set up a modern gym and a tennis court on the grounds, hosting spirited matches that attracted Hollywood's brightest stars. One of the most memorable elements of Fairbanks Ranch was a hidden tunnel linking the main house to the boathouse. It's said he'd use it either to avoid nosy reporters or to stage dramatic entrances for his guests. When his marriage ended and his movie popularity waned, Fairbanks found refuge here, spending more time away from the public eye. Eventually, the property was sold off and subdivided, but the legend remains. The idea of a hidden tunnel and private lake captures the mix of showmanship and seclusion that defined Fairbanks' later years. Even now, the memory of his carefree spirit and athletic lifestyle lives on, reminding us of a time when Hollywood stars could carve out personal paradises far from prying eyes. Alla Nazimova. Alla Nazimova's Garden of Allah was a colorful enclave on Sunset Boulevard that offered a safe haven for Hollywood's more unconventional minds. A Russian-born actress and producer, Nazimova bought the mansion in the 1910s and transformed it into an open-minded retreat. She had guest villas built, plus an eye-catching swimming pool shaped to evoke the Black Sea. Artists, writers, and actors like F. Scott Fitzgerald, Greta Garbo, and Errol Flynn found respite there, drawn by the relaxed atmosphere and Nazimova's avant-garde outlook. Rumor has it, she hosted private gatherings that went against the conservative norms of the time, giving attendees a place to break free from the usual Hollywood constraints. However, money woes forced Nazimova to sell the property in the 1920s. Eventually, it turned into a hotel that saw its share of ups and downs before it was demolished in the 1950s, making room for a strip mall. To most people passing by now, there's little to hint that this spot once buzzed with creativity and out-of-the-box thinking. Yet the memory of the Garden of Allah lives on as a bold reminder that Hollywood wasn't just about blockbusters and glamour. Sometimes it was a safe space for those who dared to be different, if only for a while. William Randolph Hearst. William Randolph Hearst's San Simeon estate, often called Hurst Castle, was nothing short of monumental. Built from the 1910s onward, it sprawled over the hills on California's central coast and ended up with 165 rooms, extensive gardens, and 2 huge swimming pools, one famously decorated with real gold tiles. Hearst, a powerful media tycoon, spared no expense shipping in authentic European ceilings, tapestries, and sculptures to decorate his massive retreat. A private zoo even roamed the grounds, complete with zebras and other exotic creatures. Hurst threw lavish parties for Hollywood stars like Charlie Chaplin and Clark Gable. But behind the glitz was a man who liked to call the shots. His longtime companion, actress Marion Davies, often had to balance his extravagant tastes with her own ambitions. Financial strains in the 1930s forced Hurst to sell off a lot of his priceless art, but he managed to keep the estate. Today, it functions as a state historical monument, where visitors can still see the grandeur and excess Hurst so adored. In many ways, San Simeon stands as a testament to one individual's drive for both power and beauty. Yet it also highlights the pitfalls of living large, as even the mightiest fortunes can face tough times when circumstances change. Jean Harlow. Jean Harlow's house in Beverly Hills seemed elegant, but carried a load of chilling stories. It was modest compared to some star homes, yet it became infamous after the sudden death of her husband, Paul Byrne. The circumstances around his passing sparked endless debates, stirring up rumors and attracting curious onlookers. Tragically, Harlow herself died at just 26, deepening the idea that something eerie might be tied to the property. Over time, new owners insisted they heard strange sounds and felt unsettling vibes, adding to the house's haunted reputation. However, Jean's softer, personal side was also on display in its rooms. She enjoyed surrounding herself with books and keepsakes that hinted at her private interests, which sometimes went unnoticed by the wider world that only knew her on-screen persona. Even though Harlow's life ended far too soon, the home still stands, quietly reminding passers-by of a star who once shone brightly. Fans continue to wonder if the place is truly cursed or just a backdrop for unfortunate events. Either way, it has become part of the legend of Hollywood's golden days, a symbol of both the glitz and the heartbreak that could emerge from lives lived under the intense spotlight of fame. Harold Lloyd. Harold Lloyd's mansion, famously called Green Acres, was a shining example of both fun and ambition in 1920s Hollywood. Boasting 44 rooms, the property included a 50-foot-long living room, several fountains, and carefully manicured gardens. Lloyd, best known for his risky stunts and silent comedies, poured the same creativity into his home, designing a private zoo, a 9-hole golf course, and even a secret room to store his film collectibles. Green Acres wasn't just an extravagant display. It was also a nod to Lloyd's relentless drive for success. He made sure every nook and cranny reflected his passion for excellence, ensuring the estate would leave a strong impression. But as silent films gave way to talkies, Lloyd found it harder to maintain the vast property. By the 1970s, much of the estate had been sold off to manage costs, though the main residence still stands. Now recognized as a historic landmark, the remaining portion of Green Acres captures a special chapter in movie history. It's a glimpse into a time when daring screen heroes could design equally daring homes, yet also a reminder that fortunes can quickly turn. Lloyd's estate ultimately mirrors his career, grand, inventive, and filled with both triumphs and trials along the way. Clark Gable. Clark Gable, often hailed as the King of Hollywood, found peace away from the studio lights at a secluded ranch in Encino, part of the San Fernando Valley. While he was best known for sweeping romantic roles like Rhett Butler in Gone with the Wind, Gable's private life had a much quieter, down-to-earth flavor. His ranch, tucked amid farmland and rolling hills, gave him room to indulge in a simpler lifestyle, far from the paparazzi. Built in the 1930s, the property didn't boast a grand facade like some other star homes, but it had plenty of hidden charms. Expansive fields and well-kept stables reflected Gable's fondness for the outdoors. He often rode horses on the trails and entertained close friends with casual barbecues, rather than the lavish affairs typical of Hollywood's elite. A modest cottage on the grounds served as a personal retreat, where Gable would practice lines or simply unwind with a good book. Following personal tragedies, most notably the death of his wife Carol Lombard. This ranch became a refuge for Gable's grief. Locals recall glimpses of him strolling the property at dusk, finding solace in its tranquility. Though time and development have changed Encino, the legend of Clark Gable's hidden ranch lives on, reminding fans that even Hollywood royalty sometimes craved a low-key escape. Cary Grant. Cary Grant's dapper on-screen image suggested a life spent in dazzling penthouses and grand estates, yet his actual Beverly Hills hideaway told a different story. Nestled behind tall hedges and understated gates, Grant's home wasn't a palatial mansion so much as a private haven. He prized his peace and valued a sense of humor in the decor. Visitors noted tasteful interiors accented by playful touches that hinted at the wit behind his refined persona. Built in the late 1930s, this discreet residence had winding paths and a lush garden where Grant liked to entertain close friends. These small gatherings were said to be far more relaxed than the high society events he sometimes attended in public. He preferred hosting a handful of guests, enjoying a quiet evening of conversation, or screening his latest film in a makeshift viewing area. There were even rumors of a hidden alcove behind the library shelves, providing a quick route to the study, or perhaps just a whimsical nod to Hollywood intrigue. Though Grant eventually relocated, the house continued to be whispered about in local circles, its unassuming exterior belying the star power it once sheltered. Even today, fans romanticize the idea of this subtle hideaway, reminding us that true sophistication often thrives in the simplest settings. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment. Also, consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell to get notified of our newest videos. Thanks for watching.